We're at the Desert National Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center, and this is the starting point for adventures at the sheep range. There's the sheep range, and today we're going to head up this valley between the sheep range and Gas Peak, and we're going to take a little passage that you see right in the center and head over to Fossil Ridge. And let's see, where would Gas Peak be? There's Castle Rock, and behind Castle Rock is Gas Peak, and there's a valley. In that valley is Fossil Ridge. So we're going to take a look at some fossils today. Just give you a 360-degree view of where we are. You can see that we've experienced a lot of snow in the past week. And we're looking at the Mount Charleston Wilderness. Over here, you can see Mummy Mountain. We were up there just a few weeks ago. And let's see, let's look even closer. There you can see some washes with snow, bands of snow vertically going up. The one in the center and to the right is the wash on Delta Canyon. You can see 3 washes there that fan out. We took the right one and ascended to the top of Mummy Mountain. Let's see what else we can see around here. In this direction, we've got in the center La Madre Mountain Wilderness, and the north side of La Madre Mountain. That'll be a goal in the coming weeks when some of this snow melts. And that's pretty much what's visible from this area. And then looking down in this direction, you're looking down toward the Las Vegas Valley. So once again, sheep range, and right up front and center here is the valley we're going to take to find Fossil Ridge. Hopefully we'll get some images of some fossils today. Okay, here we go. Well, as you can see, we're still not too far from the visitor center, so this is not going to be a long distance day. I don't know, but you can see that all the distances here are pretty great. So we're going to see if we can hit Fossil Ridge. I don't see Fossil Ridge on here, but I know basically where it is, and we'll see if we can hit it on foot. I think it's going to be about an 18-mile round trip. It helps to have points of reference, because in this wide desert area you can get lost pretty quickly. So I'm looking at this area going up, and you can see a kind of a bluff between 2 mountain areas, and we've got the sheep range over here. We have, I believe that's Castle Rock over there, or it could be actually Gas Peak. Yeah, that may be Gas Peak. There we go. I haven't seen it from this perspective before, so yeah, I do believe that is Gas Peak. And so we're going straight up this area. You can see there's a lot of brush between. So I'll be scoping out how to avoid most of this brush so that you don't get bogged down. And then getting back, it's important to have a perspective. And here you can see opening up before us the Mount Charleston Wilderness straight ahead. And guess what? There's the visitor center. And this little peak here in the foreground, no snow on it, that looks like a perfect point of reference for the return trip. Very prominent, and I just focus on heading straight to that little peak, and I'll hit the visitor center, because soon the visitor center is going to disappear. And what happens in these large areas, if you're just going cross country, is that when your points of reference, if you lose a point of reference, you don't know if you're heading off and you're going to end up 3 miles off down that direction, or down the other direction over here. You want to nail this spot without being able to see the visitor center. And that's why I always look for a point of reference as I'm taking off across these wide open places, because it looks very simple at the beginning. But once you begin to move along, and we'll see a little bit ahead where everything's going to disappear except our point of reference. So, okay, here we go. We're traveling spaces that nobody travels. So who knows what we're going to find. We may find things that have been lying here for centuries. We'll take a look. But one thing I wanted to point out is that when you're traveling across the desert and it looks like it's pretty flat and even from a distance, there's all sorts of features that begin to appear. And here we've got a wash that's coming down from the sheep range, and if you look up the range, you can see canyons there, and those canyons are where these washes originate. And so it's a strategy to ascend a mountain. You look for the wash, you look for the canyon where the wash originates, and normally you will find an easier approach upward. And we'll be exploring some of these in the weeks to come this winter of 2020. But for now, we're staying low because of all the snow in the higher altitudes. And we're heading to, you see the two mountainous areas, and then there's one little bluff in between, and to the left of that bluff is an opening, and we're going to go through that opening and see if we can locate and reach the fossil ridge, and then locate some fossils. Okay, here we go. We made a little discovery. There is the faintest, I don't know if you can see it here, but there is the faintest memory of a little trail, a little foot trail that somebody took at one time up into the mountains. And I don't think many people have been walking these in the past years, because there are all these four-wheel drive roads and access roads around this area. So any kind of trail that is seen could actually be a memory of a Native American trail. There were tribes that lived in this area, made this their home at one time in the past. And maybe we're actually here you can see very, very faintly, you can see maybe where this is an original footpath. I don't know. All I know is that it probably hasn't been traveled in in a number of years because there are so many four-wheel drive access roads out here now. So that's a potential little discovery already as we traverse these areas that have not been traversed probably for years and years. And I imagine, as you know, we're looking at the ground here and things that have been washed off of the mountains come down here, that if I were not running and were to just stay in one spot and look at the rocks here, I bet there would be some fossils along the way. So there's a lot, if you slow down, you're not speeding through these areas, that you can discover. And perhaps we'll make some discoveries today, things that have been left by previous generations. Okay, here we go. We've only ascended about 200 feet in elevation, but you can see the topography is beginning to change, and we're beginning to experience yucca plants where before there were just creosote bushes, little barrel cacti along the way too, and I expect to see more of that as we continue on upward. Again, we are shooting for an opening between this little bluff area, this rocky bluff area, and the mountain range to the left, and heading right through this spot. And looking back just to get an idea where we are, you can see a lot opening up here in this 360-degree view. And as you can see, we haven't gotten too far from the visitor center yet, but you can see my point of reference here is beginning to stand out even more sharply. That'll be the point of reference for the return trip, and the visitor center is beginning to disappear. And there's the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and over this way, La Madre Mountain. And then looking down toward the Las Vegas Valley. So, and then over in this direction, looking up toward Gas Peak. And it's, I don't know, this is looking more like a Castle Rock than a Gas Peak. And I see in the distance, right through this opening we're going to take, and in the distance behind, that may be Gas Peak. We'll know in a bit what all these are. This is a new area for me, so I don't really know the surrounding mountain features yet, but by the end of the day, we'll know all those features. Okay, here we go. Here's our point of reference goal here. Right between this little bluff and the sheep range on the left. You can see we've got the first Joshua trees, which are usually an indication, if you don't have an altimeter, that you are at the 3,000 foot level. And as a matter of fact, my watch says 3,100 feet. We've ascended about 600 feet from our point of origin. And just giving you a 360-degree view. And remember that reference point on the way back. That peak there, little brown peak in the foreground. Snow-capped mountains which are the Mount Charleston Wilderness in the background. That's our point of reference on the way back through this wide open expanse. Here is the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and you can see, let's take a look here. Here you can see Griffith Peak right in the center. A little before that is Harris Mountain. So Harris Mountain, Griffith Peak, and going over to Fletcher Peak in the center, and then Mummy Mountain. Can't really see Mount Charleston too well at this point. Charleston Peak. So, and there's Mummy Mountain. Okay, and then looking down, the Las Vegas Valley, things opening up. And then over this direction, and yes, more and more as I look at it, I would say this is Gas Peak. And there you can see right in the center is the summit of Gas Peak. So once again, taking the upper area of that bluff ahead, you see those clouds, a little puff of clouds. We will be continuing to send just to the right, passing between the bluff and that puff of clouds on our way to Fossil Ridge. So here we go. Finally in the Joshua Tree Forest at this point, and here you have them. But what I wanted to point out is one of our destinations this winter is going to be right up this canyon. I don't know what it's called, but we're going to go up to the top of it and see what we can see on the other side. That'll put us right into the sheep range. And then here, looking around, more Joshua trees. Here's that bluff coming into sharper view. And right behind this Joshua tree, you can see Gas Peak. And now we're certain it's Gas Peak. You can see a high point on the right. That's the western summit of Gas Peak. And then that high point in the middle is where we were last week on those snow slopes, and without any traction. And that's what put us to a stop. We ascended and reached the point right between the western summit and that mid summit area. The route to the true summit of Gas Peak involves ascending to that area right between the two summits on the right, and then skirting this side, the north side of that middle summit bluff, and then on to the true summit, which is on the left. So that's our Gas Peak strategy. We're going to try it on a day that does not have a lot of snow, or a day that we have traction for our feet and possibly an ice axe. We'll see. Okay, onward, right toward that cloud puff on the left, which is exactly on the route that we're taking. Further up and further in. Now you can see there is a passage between that bluff, which now looks like its own mountain system as you get closer, and the beginning of the sheep range. And here's a 360-degree view. There's the sheep range. And To give you an idea of perspective, there's now nearly no view of anything down there, that, you know, the visitor center where we started. But remember our point of reference, that little brown peak in front of the snow-capped mountains. I know I need to head for that on the way back. And here's the Mount Charleston Wilderness, La Madre Wilderness, La Madre Mountain Wilderness. You can see evidence of one of the roads down there. And then moving around, here's the backside of Gas Peak, or the north side of Gas Peak. The reason I call it the backside is that we live to the south of Gas Peak. And then circling around, we're shooting for this little passageway right in the center. And what you see behind that passage, I believe, is Fossil Ridge. It's the north side of Fossil Ridge. And the big question is, are the fossils on the north or the south side? We'll be able to answer that too, because either we will see them or we won't. Because we will be skirting most likely the north side of Fossil Ridge. So here you have it, continuing on up through the opening there. Here we go. Oh, by the way, we've ascended about 1,000 feet from the beginning, and you can see, you know, we've crossed a number of washes. And as you get higher in the mountains, the washes, or you get closer to the foothills, really, the desert washes become steeper and steeper, and you just need to watch out that you don't end up going over a cliff wash, edge of a wash, which is very possible in these areas. Okay, and there you see a road. There's Las Vegas Valley, and you can see a vehicle on the road down there. So that's one of the roads out here in the in this wilderness. And I'd say about 100% of the people that come out this way take one of these roads, and about 1/1000th of 1% would be those who just go cross country like I am today. Interesting to see where that road is as this vehicle progresses, but we won't continue to show. I think that the road is going to go through that passage that we're aiming for. Okay, onward. You can see why they don't put roads through this area. It's the land of 1,000 washes, and the roads would definitely wash out. Here's the sheep range, circling around. You can see there's absolutely no point of reference available except for my little brown peak there for the return trip. Every other landmark has disappeared. There's Las Vegas Valley opening up, and it will disappear behind mountains very soon. Here's the north side of Gas Peak. You can see the three high points, the western summit, the middle summit, and the eastern true summit. Western summit is about 6,000 feet. Eastern is about 7,000. And that middle area is what I call the Gas Peak Gauntlet, getting around that, that rise in the middle on the way across to the summit. And now you can see our little passageway here with the Fossil Ridge in the background. And there is a road that goes through that passage, so we'll hit that in a bit. You can see, let's look back down this way. One of these cars, I'm sure, is going to stop and ask if I'm lost, because there is no apparent way to get to where I am except by car on a four-wheel drive road, as these people are doing. Let's see if I can, yeah, there they are. Okay, onward. We're now skirting the very southern tip of the Sheep Range. And here you have it. Pretty substantial, beautiful cactus garden halfway up this foothill here. You wonder how they got there and how they survive in that spot. Pretty amazing. And here we are, the southern tip of the Sheep Range. And here you can see right in the center the little passageway between the southern tip of the Sheep Range and what I called a bluff from the distance. It actually is probably about 1,000 feet high as I get closer. And then doing a 360-degree view. There you see La Madre Mountain Wilderness, Mount Charleston Wilderness, and you can still see our point of reference. I might need an even higher point of reference, which would be those two snowy mountains, and just to the base of the one on the left is our point of reference, and if that disappears, I'll use the mountains in the background as a point of reference. Always good to keep in mind your point of reference in places like this, because you can bet that these canyons are going to become a maze of canyons at some point. And it's easy to head down the wrong canyon on the way back. Then you end up in a totally unfamiliar place and possibly at a cliff drop-off. So always good to really assess the reference points around you. You can see Gas Peak has disappeared behind this bluff. I'm sure it has a name. So Gas Peak is no longer a point of reference until I get through that passage up ahead. So anyway, yeah, there's enough reference around here that I'm feeling totally comfortable, very peaceful in this wilderness area. Nothing out here. And it's a little distant from any road. So chances are no one in recent history has stood where I am standing at this point. Everyone's shooting through that opening passage on the way to grander locations and not really having the time, and I can understand that, but not really having the time to slow down and see what is around us. And you see Joshua tree forest, some yucca plants, some cacti. Here's a creosote bush, and there's a number of these in this area. So it's got its own barren beauty to it. Okay, continuing on to the passage. I've got probably an hour and a half left before I need to turn around and head back. So I think I'll be able to get through that passage and hopefully to the base of the fossil ridge. Onward. Continuing on to our little passageway here, and you can see along the southern edge of the sheep range, there's a canyon here that could be an interesting exploration at some point. See what's up there. And then circling around past the southern tip of the sheep range and Mount Charleston Wilderness opening up even further into view. About 1,100 feet elevation gain so far. Nothing dramatic, but a lot of washes to cross. That's been the real challenge of the day. Up, down, up, down. And there's our passage again. We're getting close, closing in on it. There's a road right at the base of this area here, and at some point I'll hit that road and it'll make progress a little more rapid. I understand that wolverines, when they travel through the wilderness, they go in a straight line. They don't skirt around mountains. They go right over anything that's in their way. And while I don't have any other characteristics in common with a wolverine, none of the formidable teeth and claws, that is one characteristic I probably have in common. That when I go through the wilderness, I may also go in a straight line. And you see things that you wouldn't normally see. So here we are, continuing on up through the passage straight ahead. Here's a pretty large canyon on the south side of the sheep range. Bears some exploration later in the winter season. And then here's the opening that we've been shooting for. We're almost out the other side, and that rocky area just beyond, I believe that is Fossil Ridge. So we're going to find out. We've got about 3 hours into this trip so far. And we've taken our time. So I could probably do this in 2.5 hours, but I've been looking closely at the rocks that are washing down from these canyons, seeing if I can find any fossils. And I do believe that there are definitely some very interesting patterns. And I've seen things that look almost like a fossilized plant, but nothing that I can say for certain is a fossil yet. So we're still in search of fossils as we approach Fossil Ridge. Okay, onward. Continuing to round the southern tip of the Sheep Range. And approaching what I believe is Fossil Ridge up ahead. At least we're going to head in that direction. And we have reached a road. We'll be crossing that soon. And here's looking down through the passage. And looking down at the Mount Charleston Wilderness Mummy Mountain, pretty much in the center, that high point. And I just slowly passed along this ridge. I believe it's the darker rock that's more likely to have fossils. I think I might have seen something, but it wasn't definite enough that I felt like taking a picture of it. So here we are in search of fossils. And if we can't find a fossil on Fossil Ridge up ahead, then I don't know what to say. Anyway, here we go. Well, we've reached a road. And it looks pretty decent. I still don't think the beast could handle this. Here's the southern tip of the Sheep Range. Here's the opening we just passed through. I may take this road back and just run this the whole way. Probably make up a lot of time. Here's that bluff that I was talking about. And straight ahead, we're looking at two things. One is what I believe is Fossil Ridge. This is the north side of Fossil Ridge. And the other is a huge Joshua tree forest. There it is. One of the larger ones I've ever seen. It just pretty much stretches on through this whole valley up here. So anyway, continuing on, we're going to head over to what I believe is the north side of Fossil Ridge and just look around the rocks there and then turn around and head back. Onward. Here's my kind of road. Don't have to worry about vehicles on this road. On the other hand, next to me there are vehicles definitely. Looking straight at the north side of Fossil Ridge. There goes a four-wheel driver. Okay, here we go. Skirting the edge of Fossil Ridge here. And I believe I found what may be the first fossils. Look down here. If you look closely, you can see what looks like some shells and some spiral shapes. So I do believe that we're looking at fossils at this point. Continuing on now, and let's see what more we can find in this area. Oh, by the way, here's something. Quite the little spiral shape. Okay, continuing onward. I'm getting some fossil shots here on these rocks at the base of this ridge, and I imagine if I went higher up I'd see even more. But there are few here on these rocks at the base. You'll see them in the slideshow. And they're continuing on over to Fossil Ridge, or along Fossil Ridge. And here you see we are definitely in the midst of a Joshua tree forest. Pretty large. There's the southern tip of the Sheep Range. And continuing on, we've got another half hour, see what we can find up here. I'll have to come back to this place. Here we are, the southern tip of the Sheep Range. Pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And here we're circling around and looking at the north side of Fossil Ridge. And maybe I'll explore a little higher next time I come out here. But for now, I'm at the end of my time. Going to head for the road and then hightail it back to my point of origin at the Desert National Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center. We've got a few fossil pictures, so that's been a positive. And seeing an amazing Joshua tree forest, just stretching out as far as the eye can see in this valley that is pretty largely untouched because there's no direct route to get to it. Very peaceful here. You can see some of the roads that we see from the top of Gas Peak. Some cars on that road. So it's time to head back now. This will be it for the day, our first exploration of the Sheep Range area. Okay, the goal is to head down to the road, take the road all the way back where I can run that road. We'll see how it connects and how it compares to going cross country here. Pretty huge Joshua tree forest here. See, everywhere you look, Joshua trees stretching on forever in this valley just southeast of the Sheep Mountain Range. Look at all those Joshua trees. Amazing. Largest Joshua tree forest I've ever seen. There's the Sheep Range, the southern tip. And here's our target, right down that passageway and back to the visitor center of the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. Here we go. Okay, we're on the road. It took 4 hours to get to this point. Let's see, and then we were just going cross country. Let's see how long it takes taking the road back, and it's downhill, and we're on a nice firm surface, so except that it winds around a little more, so it's not going to be a straight shot. So we're going to see how this compares to just going cross country through all those washes and rocks and bushes. Here we go. There's at least one point of connection to the south side of Fossil Ridge. Here's the north side through this pass. And I think right up through there, or maybe there's a road a little further down that splits off. But I would like to try the south side of Fossil Ridge next time, just to see if there are fossils there. I may have actually overshot the ridge by going up this area through this pass. I may not have even been touching Fossil Ridge. I don't know. But we'll do some more exploring and see what we can find out next time. We'll go up the other route. We'll see if there's a connector road. Okay, onward. And homeward down this road. Making really good time. Just did in 15 minutes what took me a couple hours on the way up. Okay, onward. Well, what do you know? Here's Gas Peak Road. This is the road I just came down. There you can see the opening, the passageway that I made between the mountains. And this takes you over to Gas Peak and quite possibly, in fact probably, over to Fossil Ridge, at least the south side of Fossil Ridge. So that's a future run. These roads are just amazing. I guess maybe they really beat taking the, doing a direct cross country on the desert through all those washes that you see there. That's the way I came up. That was interesting, but next time I think I'm going to run the road. And as you can see, in the foreground here is our point of reference, and we're definitely taking it wide, so we'll be going a little further. However, that's still going to be a lot shorter, I believe. Okay, so here we go. Continuing on down this great running path. I've been offered one ride already and nice people. Everyone's waving. It's a good group of people out here on this road. But anyway, yep, heading down. Here we are back at our starting point. And it looks like Gas Peak is 4 miles, Gas Peak Road is 4 miles from here. So what that means is I probably traveled about 8 miles. It took me 4 hours going through the desert to get up to the point where I stopped and turned around. It took me less than an hour and a half to get back because I was taking the road on the way back. And next time I will cut across this area, hit the road up where that truck is, up there, take a left, and head on up to Gas Peak Road, and then try going around the other side of the Fossil Ridge, see what we can find. It'll probably take me a couple hours to get up instead of 4 hours. So, because I'll take the road going up. Anyway, we've made it. We've completed the run for today. There's the visitor center. And there's the beast. What a great day. The first day inauguration run for the Sheep Mountain Range. And I think I'll be able to see quite a bit of the sheep range on foot. Should be interesting this winter. Okay. That does it for today.